Hey Bible lovers, I'm Tim Nichols and I'm here to bring you a little bit of a different type of Nicholsworth. Today we're going to be talking about two translations I believe are the best complement for each other, and I guarantee you one of them is going to be a surprise to you. But one is going to be absolutely no surprise, and that is the New King James Version. Now let me explain why I promote the New King James Version so much. Number one, its textual source is the Textus Receptus, which was compiled in the 1500s by Erasmus as the received text. The reason I love the New King James also is because it is a formal equivalent translation. It's as word for word as possible. It's in the same tradition and style as the King James. The poetry reads beautifully. The English is modern enough for today's reader because it was put out in 1984. The English language hasn't changed so drastically that we can't read literature from 1984, and I believe that the New King James gives that perfect balance of that word for word. But that's not the only reason I recommend the New King James, and let me explain. In order to understand, you have to go to the preface. And in the preface, it gives you its translation philosophy, and it lets you know this is a formal equivalent, but it also lets you know how to utilize the notes. And I believe the New King James translation team did the best job when it comes to the textual footnotes because they used several manuscript options. When we have the Old Testament, we have the notes for the Septuagint, the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Masoretic text, and beyond. So we have all those different textual sources where we're able to really grab the different nuances that each textual source brings in the Old Testament. Also, with their textual notes, they will let you know what it means more literally if they've decided to take a little bit of liberty in order to make it more understandable in today's English. And I think that's really important for textual and scholarly integrity. We want to know what it actually says, not just what it means, because sometimes when you say something, you don't always mean that thing literally. For example, we say it's raining cats and dogs. We don't literally mean that cats and dogs are falling from the sky. So sometimes you would translate that it is raining very hard. And then in the footnotes, they're going to let you know it means cats and dogs. I'm using a silly illustration, but you get the point. Another thing about the textual footnotes that I really think makes the New King James shine above other translations, and that is their use of not only the critical text, but the majority text. And I'm just going to read this to you. In the preface, it says, "These variations generally represent the Alexandrian or Egyptian text type as found in the critical text published in the 26th edition of the Nestle-Aland Greek New Testament and the United Bible Society's 3rd edition." So we are not just getting the critical notes for the Nestle-Aland, but we are also getting the critical notes for the United Bible Society's 3rd edition as well. Now we know the Nestle-Aland has been updated to the 28th edition since 1984, so I have actually said that I would be okay with an update to the New King James textual footnotes as long as they leave the text alone. But this is important as well, and this is something that is not often found in some of your other translations. As a matter of fact, I've not seen this distinction in any other translation except the one I'm going to show you as a good complement for this one, and that is the majority text. The majority text is critically important because it represents a textual base that is based on the agreement of hundreds of Greek manuscripts. We don't have but a couple of translations, and they're not very well known. They're very hard to find in print, and that includes the New Jerusalem Version and the World English Bible, and there is the Berean majority text, which is not currently in print, which I hope comes into print soon, and that is really it. The Eastern Orthodox Bible as well, but that's it. There's not a whole lot when it comes to the majority text, but when you use the New King James Version, you have the benefit of the majority text as well. And this is actually a majority text that was put together in 1985 by Farstad and Hodges. Arthur Farstad is the one that was the pioneer and leader in translating the New King James and bringing us a Textus Receptus Bible in modern English. Another little interesting tidbit about Arthur Farstad is that he was also behind the HCSB, and it's rumored that he was going to use the Textus Receptus and let it be influenced by his majority text put out in 1985, but he passed away before that was able to happen, and they changed leaders and ended up going with the critical text. So that HCSB could have been a modern day text based off the Textus Receptus and majority text, and I think that would have been monumental. But when you look at the textual footnotes in the Old and New Testament, you're going to see all of these sources. And then what's really nice is when you get to the New Testament, it's broken down. You're going to be able to see that NU text or that M text. Now, sometimes it is just abbreviated in some New King James as NU and MT. So make sure you know that that MT does not mean Masoretic text. It means majority text in the New Testament. Obviously, it wouldn't be Masoretic text because that's referencing the Old Testament. Now, I do believe that other translations do reference the majority text and other textual manuscripts, but they will use the term other manuscripts say. Well, what manuscripts are we talking about? With the New King James, you know exactly what we're talking about. The NU means the Nestle and Anders, and the United Bible Society textual source. The MT or M text means the Hodges and Farstad majority text. So you have all these benefits along with the more literal renderings and all the stuff that you get. I just think that the New King James gives you the best of both worlds with a formal equivalent from the Textus Receptus that gives you all the footnotes from all the manuscripts out there. It really gives you the best scholarly experience where you can study the Word with multiple manuscripts right there in the palm of your hand. But what I think some of you may find surprising is my choice for the best complement text. The best complement text for the New King James is the Berean Standard Bible. And let me tell you why. The Berean Standard Bible actually has a 4-tier translation system. Only one of them is currently in print, but they have an interlinear, which is word for word, where you have the Hebrew word or the Greek word and the English word. Word order is not important. Understandability is not important. It's getting the word right. Then they have a formal or literal approach, and that one also is not in print. And then they have a more modern English or a dynamic approach, and that is what it is in print with the Berean Standard Bible. And then they have an approach where it's more paraphrastic. And then they also have a majority translation, but the only one that's in print is the Berean Standard Bible, and this one is a more dynamic translation, and it's based off the Nestle and Allen 28th edition. So not only do you get a good companion to the New King James in the sense that this one has a different textual source in the NA28 or the Nestle and Allen 28th edition, but you also get the advantage of a similar setup in the footnotes, and I think that is monumentally important. So you get a more modern reading experience, and you get a little bit more of a dynamic reading experience. And what I mean by a dynamic equivalent approach is instead of trying to go for word, they lean more toward understandable English. So you get the meaning right, but it's not literal. But where this translation shines the most is when you read the foreword and you see the textual footnotes in this thing. Now this one is awesome because it breaks it down. And it shows you common abbreviations. I really wish every translation would do this. But you see the NA, which is the Nestle and Allen New Testament. We have the SBL, the Society of Biblical Literature Greek New Testament. The ECM, Editio Critica Major. And then we have the NE, the Eberhard Nestle Novum Testamentum Graece. And this is very unique to this one. The WH is the Westcott and Hort. So they actually reference the Westcott and Hort in this as well, along with these other critical. So you have 5 different critical apparatuses mentioned here. And then we have the BYZ, which is the Byzantine text, which is the majority text. So the New King James and the BSB are the only two translations I know of that delineate these different textual sources to let you know what textual source we're referencing. Then it uses the Greek Orthodox Church New Testament, which is another Byzantine or majority text translation. And then it has the TR, which is the Textus Receptus, and it uses Scrivener's and Stephanus's Textus Receptus. Some of you may not know there's more than one Textus Receptus. They reference both of them in here. Then the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Masoretic text, the Hebrew Masoretic text, Westminster, and the Biblical Hebraica. It uses Ralph Honhurt's version and Sweet's version, and the Samaritan Pentateuch. So when you look in the footnotes, you're going to see all of this information. It is so absolutely well done. So both of these translations, number one, it's going to get you across the translation spectrum to where you're really going to have that understanding. They're both in modern English so that you're not using old and archaic words. They both really help you with the textual footnotes. They're very thorough in their footnotes, and they have clearly defined divisions in their footnotes rather than saying other manuscripts say. And I would even say the Berean Standard Bible actually has a better note system than the New King James. But the New King James is my jam. I absolutely love the way that it reads. I love the textual footnotes. It would be nice to get a little bit of an update in there. One update I'd like to see with the New King James textual footnotes is to go ahead and add what those different acronyms or abbreviations mean, and then go ahead and break it up even a little bit more, where they include even more textual sources than just the Nestle and Allen and the United Bible Society and Farstad's majority text for as far as the New Testament goes, and really just give us a little more meat to that with some of the other resources that have been discovered and translated and deciphered since then. So these two translations, I believe, work perfectly together. Which two do you use together? God bless you. Keep calm. Jesus on. This is your Nicholsworth.